Fear Inc. Fear, comma, Inc. A movie that is a combination of Scream and Cabin in the Woods. At least that's what the promotional, the trailer says. So, is it all it claims to be, or is it a dud? Well, here at Days Reviews, I'm ready to let you know. So the other night I did watch Fear Inc. And this movie, it was directed by Vincent Masciale, and it was written by Luke Barnett. Now those two guys, they did a short video or a short film, also called Fear Inc. back in 2014, and that was sort of the spawned into this feature film, Fear Inc. Like I said at the beginning of this video, Fear Inc. claims to be a combination of Scream and Cabin in the Woods. It's supposed to be a horror comedy. Now the movie starts out just like Scream in regards to having a high profile actress being murdered. And in this case it is Abigail Breslin, and she is running through the garage with some guy carrying a studded bat, and just when she thinks he gets away, boom, she winds up being killed. And that's as far as the Scream comparisons go. Scream had Drew Barrymore. This one had Abigail Breslin. And so that's pretty much the comparison. Drew Barrymore and Abigail Breslin. That's telling you right off the bat that this isn't up to Scream's quality. And as far as Cabin in the Woods goes, I don't know where they got that idea, because this is nothing like Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods did have some humor to it, and this one, Fear Inc. really doesn't have much humor to it. The comedy is pretty lowbrow, and it's just not a funny movie. It's not a scary movie either. So, there you have it. But this one, it stars Lucas Neff as Joe Foster, and Caitlin Stasey plays his wife, or not his wife, his girlfriend, Lindsay Gaines. Lindsay is the daughter of this rich millionaire, and she lives in this big, glamorous house. And Joe Foster, he's there living with her, and he's sort of deadbeat. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do anything. But he's a horror junkie. He just loves everything to do with horror. He tells her at the beginning of the movie that he was having some friends come in from Maryland, and later that night they went to a date night at some roadside little horror shop down from where they lived, and they go in there, and Joe loves it because it's horror themed, and Lindsay, she's afraid, but it ultimately winds up being a lame duck place. It really didn't have any thrills or chills, and they were both kind of disappointed in it. So as they're sitting there or standing there drinking some beer and eating some snacks, Joe is complaining about how lame this place is and how it really doesn't have many scares. When all of a sudden this little guy comes out of nowhere, and he says, and he's the little chubby kid who used to be in Sandlot. Remember that movie Sandlot with the baseball kids? Well, he was a little chubby kid in that movie, and he's grown up and he still looks the same. But yeah, he's there. So he's standing there and he's saying, "Oh, you don't think this is scary enough for you? Oh, you really want to be scared?" And he hands him this little business card, and then on one side it says Fear Inc., and the other side has a phone number, and he says, "Here, call this number." Now they do customized horror scares for their clients. And Joe and Lindsay, they blow him off. Yeah, okay, whatever. And he leaves, and they go home, and his best friend Ben Davidson is there, played by Chris Marquette, and his wife Ashley Davidson, played by Stephanie Drake. And they go, they get drunk and wasted, and they spend the night sitting in the jacuzzi talking about horror movies. Oh, what's your favorite death scene? What's your this? What's your that? Oh, all this stuff, all about horror. And so then it cuts to a few minutes later, or a few hours later, I don't know. And they're all sitting there outside of the jacuzzi now, and Joe brings up this Fear Inc. And he's sitting there talking to his buddy about Fear Inc. And his buddy Ben, he's like, "Oh no, you don't want to call those guys. Those guys are nuts. They physically hurt you, and you're putting your life at risk if you call those guys." And then he goes on to say that his boss his boss tried that one day, and she hasn't been to work ever since. And he's alluding to Abigail Breslin in the beginning of the movie. She was his boss, apparently. So, so he says, "No, okay, I'm not going to call him. I'm not going to call him." And later that night, he does call him. He gets a guy on the phone, sounds very mysterious, and the guy tells him that they're totally sold out. Call back later. So he hangs up, and he's all disgruntled. I wish I could have had it done, and whatever. So as the night goes on, things start happening. Spooky things start happening, and by this time, Joe is totally wasted. He was doing cocaine and drinking and this and that, so he's totally wasted. And like I said, it seems like their house is being invaded. Their power goes out. You see shadows here and there and noises, and Joe is thinking that it's Fear Inc. He's like, they're playing the game. We're playing the game. And then it turns out to be, or it gets to a point where you start thinking, is it a game or is it real life? And that's the basic question about this movie: is it real life or is it a game? What's going on? So, what did I think about Fear Inc.? Well, like I said earlier, to me it wasn't scary, it wasn't funny, so it failed automatically on the first 2 points on its test. So, it claims to be Scream meets Cabin in the Woods. It only has one similar thing with Scream, nothing similar with Cabin in the Woods. So it loses there too. The acting, most of the people were okay. Lucas Neff, who played Joe, he was a little bit over the top. I know it's hard to play somebody who's wasted or drunk or or high or whatever, but he was more annoying than anything else. The cinematography of this movie was great, though. It was really shot well. It looked great. It sounded great. It just fell flat for me. It's one of those movies where you just don't care about the main characters. If you don't care about them, you lose interest in the movie, and you just watch it to finish it. And that's what it wound up with me. I wound up watching it to finish it, and I was hoping it was going to get better, hoping. Then I look and I'm like, oh, there's only 10 more minutes left, and it hasn't gotten better yet. As a matter of fact, closer to the end, there's a scene out in the middle of the desert, which I'm not even going to get into. I'm not going to say how or what happens there, how they get there, or whatever. There's a scene out in the desert, and the movie moves pretty quick. Throughout the movie, it's a pretty quick-paced movie until they get to this desert scene, and then all of a sudden, it's like they slam on the brakes, and this scene drags and drags and drags. And I'm like, geez, I was like, just finish this scene and get over. Move on, speed it up some. And so that was another sort of it felt like it was a bump in the road. As you might be able to tell by now, I didn't particularly care for Fear Inc. It's not something that I would watch again. As for my rating, I give Fear Inc. 2 out of 5. Like I said, it was beautifully shot. Everything was there to make a good movie, but it just wasn't a good movie. It fell flat. Not scary, not funny. There you go. So, 2 stars out of 5 for Fear Inc. That's my movie review for today. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up down below. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe and keep up with all my latest reviews. So that's what I have for you today. So, see you next time. Bye.